It's like the worst name you could have ever chosen.
Oh, we'll work on it.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, I like the name Peggy. Wow. Hopefully nobody is listening that's named Peggy.
Gosh.
Anyway, hello.
Hi. Welcome to our podcast.
Yes, welcome to Haunted or Hoax. We are a paranormal, I guess, podcast, you would say. Well, I wouldn't just say you say. We are definitely a supernatural paranormal podcast. We are going to be talking about some haunted houses, haunted spaces, trying to decipher whether we think the hauntings are legit or they should quit. What else are we doing, Jennifer?
Will you tell all the spooky stuff? You are Kristen. Hey, Kristen.
Oh, yes, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jennifer. I actually look at the history, I do some research, and I see if there's any substance behind the stories themselves.
Right. And then a little bit of an added bonus. We're going to get together once a month and go on a ghost tour, try to figure out the most interesting story we can from those ghost tours, and then bring it to all of our listeners, which will be really fun.
Do it on the fly.
Definitely, which will be super fun for us because Jennifer and I have been friends for over 20 years. But we currently live in different states. She lives in Georgia. I live in Florida. So you might see a little bit of a theme when we get started here. Like today, our first story that we're doing is in Savannah, Georgia. So we might kind of lean towards the East Coast a little bit, but hopefully we want to kind of expand all over the United States and maybe different countries. Who knows?
Ooh, ghost tours in England. Yes, please.
Yes, Scotland. So since I now know that I'm Scottish and I'm not Italian, so that'll be fun.
Your dad's forever disappointed by your
He's
genealogy.
forever just flabbergasted. He cannot believe that we're not Italian, but there's just nothing in there. There's nothing there at all. So I can't even brag about my pasta skills anymore.
You still have great pasta skills.
Thank you. I don't break it. That's that. And I salt the water. Those are two things that I've learned
Salted water. It's the most important thing.
Yes. But yeah, so we're going to get started, aren't we?
Yeah. So we're doing 432 Abercorn Street, and that's in Savannah.
Right.
If you're not familiar with Savannah, Georgia, it is right next to the coast, and it is one of the most, if not the most haunted city in America. You cannot turn a corner without seeing a ghost tour.
Oh, yeah.
Very popular there. Kristen and I love to go visit. It's a beautiful city. And I actually did not know about this house before Kristen brought it up to do an episode on. So this has been super interesting for me.
Yeah, so I have heard about this house on a ghost tour in Savannah, actually, but I was reminded of it trying to figure out another house I heard about on the same ghost tour. I still have no idea what the house is. I'm gonna have to it's going to like, pun intended, haunt me for the rest of my life because I'm not gonna know. But 432 Abercorn. I keep saying in my head Abercorn. I know it's Abercorn, but if I mess up, that's because I keep just saying it in my head as Abercorn. But I came across it when I was trying to jog my memory of the other house. And I was like, oh yeah, this had really interesting like legends surrounding it. Some super like heavy sort of stuff. I've always wondered if it was actually real or if it's all just legend. So I'm gonna kind of take you through some of the more prominent rumors around this house. And then Jennifer's going to let me know if it's all BS or not.
Did you see like any of the history? Well, I'm just curious while you were looking at the legends.
I saw some history, but I didn't like delve too far into it because I knew that you were going to do your research and like knock it out of the park. But I did see some of it. And then I also have some like more like current stuff about like the house, which I'm interested in seeing if you found the same thing that I did. But yeah, so let us get started. I'm going first, right?
You're going first today.
Perfect. So we're going to start out with the Wilson family. The Wilson family is the family that 432 was built for. The construction and building of the house finished up in 1869, and Benjamin Wilson and his family moved in shortly after. And the legend goes, Wilson, who was a Civil War veteran, had the ambition to climb the social Savannah ladder. We lost the war, but Savannah was pretty much left unburned. So a lot of like prominent families in Savannah still live there. He wanted to be a part of that. So I did find something interesting while I was looking through this legend. He had built a house that was considered to be one of the most expensive in all Savannah, which was $20,000. Did you see that in your?
Yes.
So I got all my sources from different kind of like ghost city tour sites, and Savannah Terrors, Nightly Spirits, Ghost City Tours, BethDollinger.com are pretty much all my sources, except for some Instagram photos and a blog site from the current owner, which I'll talk about later. But on, I believe it was Savannah Terrors, they said that $20,000 was about like $650,000 in 2021. But I did my own little calculator on Google, and I saw that it was about 400,000.
Yeah, I did too.
That is not too bad for Savannah now. I feel like
No, as well, especially like this is kind of a precursor, but that house sold for like 1.2 million.
that's insane. House hunting is my favorite game to play on Zillow. But yeah, I don't think you can get anything good for $400,000 in Savannah. Not to say you can't, but like I feel like this sort of house, if you look at pictures of it online, there would be no way today.
No, like 1.2 was a really good deal.
Right. But so, they move into this hugely expensive house, and, think, the war's over. He's going to be Mr. Big Shot, and they were going to live all happily ever after, which does not happen. Shortly after they move in, Mrs. Wilson, his wife, dies of yellow fever, according to the legend. And Mr. Wilson falls into a depression and becomes very aggressive and overbearing towards his daughter. He begins to lash out and dish out cruel and unusual punishments when she's disobeying him or spoke back to him. He would do things like refuse her meals, lock her in an empty room. As he wasn't a good dude. He was not. He was taking out some sort of grief on his daughter, which we don't do. We are not going to use our children as like, I don't know, punching bags for emotional trauma. So the legend really dives into an incident where his daughter went out to play with some other children in the neighborhood, and when Mr. Wilson checked on her, he saw that she was playing with some Black children from the neighborhood. Savannah Terrors calls this from an orphanage. And then all the other sources I see name the Massey School as the school where these children were from, or they were being taught at. And they did say it was an underfunded, underprivileged children's school. But Savannah Terrors is the only one that says it's an orphanage. So I don't really, there's kind of like, I tend to believe it is the Massey School. I don't know if Massey School means orphanage, if they're like kind of one and the same, but that's what I was getting from my sources. He brought her inside, he scolded her, and he said she was too good to be friends with children of color, and she needed to stay away from them. She did not heed that warning, and she went and played with them again. This caused Mr. Wilson to allegedly fly into a rage. He took her to a room on the second floor, tied her to a chair by her ankles and wrists, and left her in front of the window for the children and neighbors to see and for her to watch. Like, she couldn't participate. She just had to watch people like live their lives and play with like her just sitting there, which is awful. Just the worst.
Yeah.
He sucks big time, if any of this is true. Mr. Wilson was said to like not have any sort of like empathy. Like, she kicked and screamed and he didn't like let her go. But on Beth's website, which I'll link in our Instagram and everything, all my sources, Beth's website reports the neighbors did see the little girl, and they complained to Mr. General Wilson, and he responded by removing the ropes, but ordered her to remain in the chair. And obviously, if your dad is doing that to you, you're not going to want to move. Like, you're not going to want to disobey him. at any rate, he left her up there for days at a time during one of the worst heat waves. Hold on, that is my cat. She thought it was a game and she came back in to try to get me.
It is a game. It's always a game.
Where was I?
During one of the worst heat waves.
Yeah, worst heat waves of Savannah's ever seen. He goes up to check on her a few days after, like leaving her in this chair for no food, no water, nothing. Not surprisingly, she passed away. And Mr. Wilson panicked. He untied her, and I guess nothing ever came of it. The legend says that he got away with murder, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two different versions where this legend kind of veers off. One report says that General Wilson also died in the home, but his death came naturally, unlike his daughter's. And Savannah Horrors and a few other places report that he shot himself in the head.
Oh my gosh.
After his daughter died, like very closely after his daughter died, he shot himself in the head and like committed suicide in the room that she died in.
Mm.
So the reason why he was suspected of taking his life was because his daughter was supposedly haunting him and like following him around and like giving him no peace, and that's why he shot himself.
It's like an Edgar Allan Poe situation.
Yeah. So some of the hauntings that kind of take place, or like evidence of spirits, Beth went on a tour actually, and she reported that her tour guide Dawn said that there is an image of a little girl sitting in one of the windows, and there's also General Wilson's face that appears on the side of like one of the walls outside. Mm-hmm. And then cameras are known to shut down, and in some extreme cases she says that the tour guide Dawn has even seen smoke begin to curl up from the cameras.
Jeez.
As a attempt to take a picture, which I mean, cameras are expensive, so I would be pissed if somebody's daughter made my camera break in that way. So my thing with the pictures of the little girl in the window, which I have some on Instagram of like faces and orbs, because orbs are kind of reported too, is that they say it's from a living room window, but she died in a second story room, according to legend.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why, unless the living room is on the second floor. I don't know how big this house is. It's huge from pictures I've seen, but I don't know exactly what the layout was. And maybe you can tell me more about that later, or maybe not. We don't know. This is a mystery podcast as well as a haunted one.
You have no idea what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I have no idea what's coming. But there are a few other things that are going on with 432 besides this big chunk of story, which is the Wilsons. Like that's where it got its start. There is also the triple murders that happened in the 1950s, 1960s. According to Beth on her website, Beth Dolgner, I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, man. Like I tried to phonetically, sound it out, and
Confidence.
it just wasn't working.
Say it with confidence.
But she's a paranormal nonfiction and fiction writer. And I looked at some of her website, and it's bomb, and we give you props. I took a lot of my information from you, so thanks. But
shout out to Beth.
Shout out to Beth. So much shout out to Beth. But she reported that in 1959, a family in Pompano Beach, Florida, came to visit a doctor that was living at the 432 Abercorn Street house. The visiting family included 4 daughters ranging from 4 to 12. When the adults went out one evening, like to go out to dinner, have a few drinks, they returned and 3 of the girls were dead. 2 of them were still inside the house, and one was sprawled out on the front porch like she was killed while she was trying to escape or get help or something. And then the youngest daughter, who was 4 at the time, was the only one still alive, which is just heavy. 4 girls, 4 to 12, dying while you're away. That's like every parent's worst nightmare.
Especially in like the 1950s, 1960s, when stuff like that, it might have been happening, but you didn't hear about it happening very often.
Right.
And in Savannah, like an affluent, like that's a nice neighborhood over there.
Right. Yeah. I think that people if you've never been to Savannah, I mean, obviously everywhere has bad areas, but I can't really think of a very like super bad area of Savannah now. I mean, some places, but not like I've always felt very safe in Savannah.
Mhm,
So I couldn't imagine what it was like in the 50s and 60s. I feel like it
mhm.
might have been like a quaint little set of the Truman Show, you know?
And in her information, did she like give either of the families names or anything? Like she said that they were from
No.
Pompano Beach. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
she just said that it was from Pompano Beach. She didn't give any names. She just referred to the family that was the family that was hosting
Mhm,
as the doctor and his
mhm,
family.
mhm.
But Savannah Terrors has a different take on this, which I just find really interesting because Savannah Terrors and Nightly Spirits are both like ghost tour hosted sites. So I find it very interesting when I look at their stuff and their parts of the legend because it kind of feels like they're sensationalizing some things. Um,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, because Savannah Terrors does say that it's pretty much the same story. That wasn't any like monster, that was just Jennifer's chair. I have a screaming husband and a cat that won't leave me alone, and she just has her squeaky chair. We're just all fine tonight.
I need to upgrade my chair.
I love it.
I'll just keep leaning forward. It'll be terrible for my back, but much better for the
Oh,
audio editing.
my shoulders are just fucked up already. Okay, so Savannah Terrace says that it was a small family living at 432. A husband and wife and their two daughters lived happily in the house, and then they invited their family friends over for the holiday during winter break who also had two daughters.
Mhm.
So in this version of the story, the family had two daughters, and then the family visiting had two daughters, and that's how you make up the four. When they went out drinking and everything, they came home to find again the three girls brutally murdered and then one hiding in a closet. They say that the girls were found sliced open with their organs
Ugh.
removed, and their bodies had been twisted into the shape of a triangle,
Mhm.
which led some to believe the Illuminati committed the murder. And was I have a question.
You just have one question about that? Well, I mean,
I
by
have.
all means.
So this is the 50s and 60s, and this is going to probably sound like a dumb question to like every conspiracy theorist, but was the Illuminati around in the 50s? Like, was that a thing? Like,
Kristen,
was that a
why? Hold on. No, why do you think that there is an eyeball on the pyramid in the dollar bill? The Illuminati has always been
I know, but like, was it like, people meme about the Illuminati all the time. Was it like something that people talked about in the 50s and 60s? Like, that's what I want to know. Was
do
it like
you
a
want
big
me
thing?
do you want me to look up when the conspiracy when the Illuminati was publicly discussed for the first time?
Yes, I do. I want you to like let me know
Okay, I'll tweet
who
about that.
started it. Yes, perfect. I want to
Well,
know
no,
who started the Illuminati. Like
well, they don't know that.
I want
It's a secret
answers.
organization. That's a different podcast.
Damn it. Tune into our podcast.
Listen,
What
no, no.
We're barely handling this one. But no. So yeah, I just want to know, like, did they come upon these twisted bodies into a triangle and say this is the Illuminati? Like, did the investigators come across them and they're like, oh yeah, the Illuminati did this? Like, did they even know who they were?
So it's interesting that yours said Illuminati because I had the same story pop up about the bodies being found in the shape of a triangle. The three bodies made up the triangle.
Mhm.
They said that it was some sort of satanic ritual.
Oh, that's interesting because one of the other rumors that I found was that when 432 went on the market after a few years, that Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, tried to buy it for the purpose of using it as a base operation for the East Coast branch of the Church of Satan. So that's kind of interesting.
That is a rumor
That is a rumor.
and
They're
just a rumor.
just a rumor.
Just a rumor.
Listen.
I mean, you can hold on to that little nugget of information if your heart likes it. But
I kind of like that, like Anton LaVey was just strolling the streets of Savannah with a real estate agent and was like, yeah, you know what, this is the one. I feel like bodies have been in triangles here before, and I and I have a calling.
I have a
uh,
postcard from my friend Frank. He was
um,
around in the early 1960s, and
and
he said this place was great.
he said, come stay a while, paint some pentagrams on the floor. Don't actually do that. we're
No,
not we're not encouraging that on this
do
podcast.
not mess up the historical homes, please.
No. And then another big rumor is that it was built on a slave graveyard. Nightly Spirits reports that it was built on land that was a slave graveyard. An estimated 1,000 slaves were laid to rest in the mass graves, and they were buried together in pits without proper grave markers to record their names. And none of the bodies were removed from the gravesite prior to building the house on top of it.
That tracks.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All
I'm
right.
just talking about for Savannah.
Oh, I thought you were like, yeah, like check that off as a fact because you have
No,
the.
I'm just saying in general, if you're familiar with Savannah, they say that the street workers that like do the repairs on the streets and all that are part-time archaeologists because they tend to find bodies every time they do some sort of repair.
Oh my God. Imagine having that job. Imagine going to an interview for that job and they're like, yeah, you might have to dig up some bodies. It's fine. We're going to pay you $12 an hour.
You might run across a toe, but we have a bucket for that.
Yeah. We give you paid time off. It's fine. Like benefits.
I mean, it would like on an archaeologist side of things, like it would be pretty neat. But
Right.
like how
But
many bodies is too many bodies, you know?
probably.
Are you putting a number on it?
I'm just like, how many bodies would be too many bodies for me to like quit a job or just like be too much?
Okay, so if it were me, I would not be a construction worker anyway, but I
Let's
would
pretend
be
we're
an
handy.
archaeologist. I would be an archaeologist. And if I think of it from that standpoint, if you find the bodies that were put underneath a traffic light when they shouldn't have been, then it's an opportunity to relocate them to a more peaceful place.
That is true. I'm thinking of it from a street cleaner, like, perspective. If I was hired as a Savannah street cleaner and I came across a body, how many bodies would I have to come across for me to be like, you know what? 12.50 an hour is not enough, even though they give me vacation time.
I think, are we talking about two different kinds of bodies? Like, are you talking about year 2000 bodies? Because I'm talking about year 1800 bodies.
I'm talking about any bodies. I don't want to find skulls and
Any
bones.
bodies?
Like I'm saying, like if I dug up a fucking femur, I would be very shocked. I'd be intrigued, but I'd be very shocked. And if I did that like maybe twice a month throughout the whole year of employment, I'd be like, you know what? I need to take a break from this because I'm finding too many bones.
Y'all need to do your due diligence
You know what?
before you have me dig up any more cobblestone.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. I say maybe if I found 20 bodies in a year, I'd be like, you know what? I have to stop doing this. We have to stop meeting like this. And because also ghosts could follow me home from their bones.
No,
I found them.
you just light a leaf
No, we don't.
above your head.
Whichever tour guide lit a leaf above Jennifer's head in Savannah to get rid of spirits, you have done irreparable damage to her.
It was the most gimmicky thing. And I have been on some cheesy ghost tours, but being told that a burning leaf from the street, which I know what goes on in the streets of Savannah, you're going to pick that up and burn it above my head and tell me that's going to keep the spirits away because there's so many fires in Savannah that the spirits are afraid of smoke. It's has stuck with me since 2016. I will never forget it.
It will follow her to her grave. So I hope you're proud of yourself.
The ghost might not have followed me, but that memory did.
And which is worse? Okay, I have two more. The third most common story told about 432 Abercorn is probably like one of the most like BS ones that I saw. It was like probably like 90s era. It wasn't recent, but it was sometime between the 60s and today. which is such a small span of time.
It's so specific.
It was like around the 80s and 90s. They didn't give me a specific era, but it was a student at the Savannah College of Art. He found himself staying at that house. And then one night he disappeared, never to be seen again. Some say he was transported into another dimension by the will of demons, is what I got from a source. And let me just say, they cannot name a name of this missing boy. They cannot tell me when he went missing, what he was wearing, what the demons might have said. Like, come on over here and party. I have some, he's an art student. I have some really great paint brushes for you in this another dimension.
You want some depth in your paintings? Check out this other dimension over here.
Right. You just can never leave. Sorry. You have to paint for us now, the demons. But so I don't give this rumor any credit because there was nothing that I could find. Maybe you found something. I don't know. Also, I found a tweak on this rumor that was from the 1990s, which is why I say this missing boy might have been from the 90s, because it was in the 1990s, the house was briefly rented out to a lot of college students from Savannah College of Art and Design. And they were said to have heard pounding, heavy pacing, crying, and a lot of giggling, like a little girl giggling. And I think this is from Beth's website. She had spoken to a local resident who sometimes feels like such a negative emotion emanating from the house, she can't even walk past it.
Mm.
One of her acquaintances lived at the house for a time, according to Beth's source, and he disappeared while living there. So that's like why I got the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
The other missing rumor I got from Nightly Spirits. So it was two different sites, but that's like how I kind of made the connection. But again, nobody says his name. I feel like if there was a missing person who like
Mm-hmm.
went into 432 and like fucked off to another dimension, sorry, but if he did, I'm very sorry. But I feel like he would have a name. um, so I don't know. So those are pretty much the rumors. I did try to find like, because you can't go into 432. It's a private residence owned by a couple who moved from Ohio and are redoing and restoring the house. How do I know this? Because I found her Instagram. And how do I know that they're restoring it and everything? Because she has a blog. She hasn't updated since February, but she started in 2019, and they show kind of progress of them restoring the house, which is pretty nice. She says nothing negative has ever gone on there. She knows that the rumors and she sees the ghost horrors across the street from her house, and she says that nothing is going on. She also has not posted since February. So where are you? I need you to let me know you're alive or something, because this doesn't bode well for this story if you just stop posting in February of 2021. But I did look on Reddit. I found a little small thread where I found a picture of an orb. Let me see if I can share my screen just to show you this brief picture. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Reddit picture that was taken in 2008. And they're saying that this is an orb. And that was a demon. No, just kidding.
That was my tea.
um,
Wait, the shiny thing is the orb, or the thing on
yeah,
top of the window is an orb?
thing on top of the window.
So the left window, the second panel from the top.
This one?
Yes. Now move your mouse a little to the, nope, too far.
Oh, this way, right here. I see it. Oh, I'm pointing with my finger. You can't see me. Right. This
Yeah.
right here.
Because I'm pretty sure
Oh,
that shiny thing is
a
the,
bug.
well, I was going to say the house number. Like, you know how they have the plaque on there?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I thought it was a bug, like just flying into the screen.
But you can also, yeah.
What about this man right here? I don't know what this is.
What the, I don't know what that is.
Isn't that creepy? I feel
That
like
is creepy.
somebody photoshopped that in.
Yeah, that looks more reasonable than
This
the
looks like an
shiny.
orb too.
Yeah. But I know what can happen is if you have a reflection, it can reflect in the lens of your camera and
Mhm.
cause distortion around the rest of the picture. So like that reflection from the street number right there could
Right.
also be what you're seeing. That thing behind the stairs is a little weird. I will give it that.
It is a little weird. And we'll post this picture on our Instagram and we'll give credit to Colton McKay for sure. But it's very weird, the thing behind the stairs. And then like I do see the orb like right
Mhm.
here at the base of the stairs and then right here where you pointed out. So somebody also said the Jada Jester on this Reddit thread said that she has or they have been there and I don't know why I keep misgendering this person. I don't know what gender they are. They have a cute little anime icon and that's the only thing I'm going off of. But they said that they felt sick and terrified and like they were being watched when they were just outside the house. So that's kind of creepy.
Mm.
And then I just had a few pictures that I wanted to show you because I did some Instagram stalking. So this one is from Nitra Milcare.
Sorry, I just got so uncomfortably close to the camera. Like you can't see me.
But she took a picture like of like outside the house by a window, and if you zoom in, does that look like a face right there to you? I don't know, or it could be just the drapes.
I'm making faces. I mean, y'all, I'm acting like y'all can see me. I'm making faces at Kristen in the webcam right now.
Yeah, and I'm like kind of trying to judge
I
it
mean, I
because
can.
the face isn't really there on this picture, and then you go to this picture and it's kind of there. We're also getting very up close with this girl's face, a stranger's face, and Jennifer's covering it up.
I don't really.
You don't really see it.
I don't really see it.
Okay. And then I just wanted to show you these pictures because, like I said, the current owner is restoring this house and it is gorgeous.
So pretty, right?
So gorgeous. They're living my dream, honestly. I mean, if it's not haunted, if this house isn't haunted, they're living my dream, and I'm very, very jealous. Because the house is it's pretty much done renovations, it looks like, at least in the front of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so pretty.
And they've done like major renovations on it. Like they had to rebuild that double decker balcony and everything. It's so pretty. I have it pulled up on my screen over here just because I wanted you to see the before and after in case you hadn't. And they did a great job restoring it. It is
They
so
really did.
pretty.
They really did. But yeah, so those are the supposed legends, hauntings of 432. There's a lot going on, and that's why people keep saying that it is one of the most haunted houses in Savannah. I'm very interested in seeing what you have come up with and seeing if anything is true. Because there wasn't a lot that I found. Like I said, I didn't look very hard because I knew that you're going to be doing your research, but there wasn't a lot that I found that like really corroborated a lot of what I was reading as far as like legends and spooky like hauntings were going. So
Well, I will tell you all about it. You want to take a quick break?
sure,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So let's just get into it.
Yes, tell me all about the history. What's true, what's fake?
Well, I think what you found is the actual physical location of the rumor mill.
Okay, I follow you.
This was so hard to research.
Oh no.
I mean, it's very interesting. And the fact that it had so many stories gave me lots of things to research. But those stories vary so much. And I mean, that's what happens with oral history. Like the stories change.
Right.
However, there was so much variance. It just made some things a little bit harder to believe than others. But we'll get into each one of those.
Okay.
You didn't say a story that I didn't find.
Oh, okay.
So you're not catching me off guard by any means.
Okay, good.
So I looked into all of them. The first one was the Wilson family, which they did move into the house in 1869. I found a census for Benjamin J. Wilson it was a ghost tour company that shared it. And I also tried to find it on ancestry.com, but I couldn't find the specific one because those guys really want you to sign up for their subscription. And I am a
We don't
stickler for
share our credit cards.
I sometimes do. But I haven't come around to doing it for this one yet. I am very close though. But this is it right here. So usually off to the side right here, and I'll share this on our Instagram as well. You'll see the street number and like the street and the house number that they're in. The weird thing with me is that this isn't the right house number,
Oh yeah, I see that.
but it is BJ Wilson, and he's 55
Okay.
or 3, depending on how you read that script. He's a male, white, and his trade is cotton merchant.
Oh, interesting.
So this census was from 1870. You know, they do it every decade. So this one was from 1870. So they would have just moved into the house when this census was taken. Instead of it showing him having a wife and a daughter, it actually shows him having a wife, 3 sons, and 2 daughters.
Oh.
And so this is his son Benjamin at 21, his wife Lizzie or Elizabeth at 45. Her trade is keeping house, as you see right here.
That would not be my trade. I'd be really bad at that trade.
His son Benjamin, who is 21, is a clerk in the store. And then he has a son William, 12 years old, a son Edward, 4 years old, a daughter Carrie at 10 years old, and a daughter Mary at 8 years old. So it appears from what I found that the daughters went on to live into adulthood. Carrie married and moved to Atlanta, and she died in 1942 at the age of 82. Mary married into a very wealthy family. I couldn't figure out specifics, but according to more rumors, she married into a very well-known rich family in Savannah. And then as far as General Wilson dying in the house, that's where things get a little hazy. The website that provided the census that you're looking at states that he died in Colorado Springs in 1896. So I tracked that, and they used People Legacy, which is kind of like if you've used Find a Grave, it's pretty similar to that. And
I've never used Find a Grave.
Oh, really?
No.
I use it for, I have a really big family.
I've just gone to grave sites.
My mom uses it to track like where my family members have been buried over the years, because we have such a big family that like the distant relatives, she does like the genealogy tracking. So you can see like where the distant relatives were actually buried. This one doesn't have quite as much information. It does have like the birth and the death date based on the graves, and then any spouses and where they died and where they're buried. So this People Legacy states he was born in 1823. But if you look at the census right there, those numbers don't quite match, because at the time the census was taken, if he was 53 or 55 thereabouts, that would have made his birth year around 1817. Not 1823. Also, on People Legacy, it states that his wife Elizabeth died in the year 1900. So, according to the grave marker, she was born in 1835, which would have made her 35 at the time of the census, not 45, which is what it says on the census. And also, if you did that math, that would make her 14 years old at the time of her first son's birth.
Well, and honestly, does that would not surprise me as much as I guess now. I mean, in the 1800s, I feel like 14-year-olds having kids was not that
not completely unheard of, but wouldn't that be around the time of like the Civil War too?
Yeah.
So there's just some discrepancies there. I tried to find the census for 1880, which would have been the next go around, to see who lived in the house at that point, but I couldn't find one for that house, because like I said, you usually see the streets next to it, but there was not one that was accessible. They do have them in the archives in Savannah. I did not make a trip this go around, but I will.
We're not good podcasters. Next time. But I think that like going back to the original thing that you pointed out, that it's not technically the house number, it could have changed. like I know that Savannah is very historic, but they could have changed some numbers in some streets between now and the 1800s.
That is a great point. Hold on to that and put it in your pocket.
Okay, I will. I do find it very interesting though that both of the daughters like lived into adulthood and none of them died by being tied to a chair to watch children play on the street when they could not. So that's interesting. But then I'm like wondering where that story came from.
No idea. He had 6 other kids. I mean, or like he
Right.
had 6 kids. The Massey School, which you brought up, was across the way. That is actually still there today. And it is the last remaining old school, like public charter school.
Oh.
It's like one of the only old ones left. From what I was seeing, though, it wasn't like a poor house. And it definitely wasn't an
Yeah.
orphanage. It was just like a legit public school.
Okay, so that makes sense because they described it as a like underprivileged kids school or an orphanage, and I was like, I feel like if their house was like $20,000 in the 1870s and they were in this affluent part of town, I feel like there wouldn't be a poorhouse school across the
Right.
street.
Right. That is exactly what I thought as well. Of why would there be so many poor children around him and he choose to drop this most expensive house in the city right in the middle of the poor neighborhood?
Right. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen because we all know gentrification happens, but I'm just saying in the 1870s, I don't feel like that
Right.
was happening as much.
Right. So all that information that I was trying to get, like the next census or the bill of sale for the home, that was either in a physical copy in the archives or, locked up in Ancestry, which the Mormons won't give you access unless you get them $17 a month. So I might end up doing that at this rate because I've run up against it a couple of times.
I signed up for it because I had the DNA test that proved that I'm not Italian. And it wasn't worth it for me, but it probably is worth it for you for your research. For my personal research, let's just say I found my biological grandfather doesn't want anything to do with me. If you're listening to this podcast, I messaged you and you ghosted me. So Ancestry is on my bad list. I unsubscribed.
I guess so did your grandfather. Rude.
Right.
So that is pretty much the wrap up of the Wilson family.
Okay. So it's just not true. I just feel like it's not true.
No,
okay.
It did not happen.
You heard it here from the source.
It didn't.
Somebody's going to go on a Savannah ghost tour that goes by this house, and they're going to start telling the Wilson family, and they'll have listened to this podcast, and they're just going to like cross their arms and be like, that's not true.
No, listen, what you need to do if you're going to a ghost tour in Savannah, just go to our Instagram and take a couple of screenshots of this census and be like, hey, that story you're telling, can you explain this to me, please?
Really aggressively do it. Show where is your proof? Because I have the proof right here. It's in the Instagram post.
Where is your evidence? Because here's mine.
Right.
So the next story is the triple homicide. I have to say, based on my findings, that also probably didn't happen.
No triangle bodies?
Oh, she says so distraught.
Oh man, 3 little girls to get murdered and disemboweled and put into a triangle by the Illuminati satanic something?
Illuminatic? It's a new front door light coming soon to your neighborhood. No, that I couldn't find anything about that. I looked at the old newspaper clippings from the Savannah morning. They did not have a thing. They didn't have anything as far as cold cases on the Georgia Bureau of Investigation site, which, in case you didn't know, they have an archive for all of the cold cases, all of the unidentified bodies, and all of the missing persons in Georgia. If you want to go look through that.
Is amazing. And I would spend an
database.
afternoon just doing that.
It was pretty interesting. But oddly enough, there was no triple homicide anywhere on there. The only thing that I did find when it came to looking up triple homicides in Savannah was a triple homicide axe murder that happened in 1909 on West Perry Street.
Ooh, that's interesting.
But that's a different episode.
Oh, that is a different episode. Damn it, Jennifer.
Oh.
Keeping us on our toes.
The cliffhanger. So the last thing we have is the demonic taxi House of Satan nonsense due to the entire lack of information. And I wrote in here, I really like how you pointed this out. Due to the entire lack of information, such as, time frame, name, witnesses.
Right. There's just nothing. I don't even know how this story came about.
There's really no way to know that actually happened or not. But based on what I've seen, like I said, I wasn't able to get the full sale list of like the owners and when it was sold to who and what it was sold for, because the property information would say if it was a rental property or a residence.
Right.
I haven't been able to get my hands on that yet. So, maybe if we revisit this, I'll have time to go to the archives and bother the poor librarian that works the archives in Savannah. But just based on
that librarian,
get your master's degree.
God, no.
Based on what I've seen, that didn't happen. That's just another rumor in living in the physical location of the rumor mill. So that brings me to the current owners. Like I said earlier, based on my research, they are not members of the Church of Satan. One of them is a lawyer from California. So be nice.
We're so nice. I'm telling you, I'm not saying I think that it's so great. They have done amazing work to that house.
For sure.
And
absolutely.
And from the blog that I found from the wife, I suppose it's his wife. I don't know if they're married or not. If they're not, it's cool. But from the blog, she seems very sweet and very nice and very respectful of the history that is like her house. So, and she only seemed a little bit ticked off when she was talking about the ghost tours, which I would be too if some like group of 25 people 15 times a night are standing across the street from my house trying to take pictures of my windows.
Because everybody's using flash.
Right. And then somebody's talking loudly about 3 little girls being murdered in my house and also another little girl being tied up in a chair on the 2nd floor. I mean, it's not probably the best way to wind down after work. So,
but these owners are very nice.
Yeah, they seem very quaint.
Quit flashing their windows.
Yes, stop. Oh, so I also, during my research, looked on YouTube just to see if there was any like little like haunted paranormal YouTubers that have covered this house. I love paranormal YouTubers. Don't get me wrong. I love you guys. I'll watch it all day. But I did find these like more home videos of what looks to be a group of college idiots holding their phones and like trespassing on this property and like putting their phones into the windows like behind the chain link fence when it was under construction. And they're like, oh, somebody's in here. And I was like, yeah, it's somebody's house that they're renovating. And they're like, there's a lamp on. It's like, yeah, somebody lives there, dingbat. Like, get away. They're gonna call the police on you.
We do not condone stepping into somebody's residential home without their permission.
Yeah, trespassing isn't cool, you guys. I have to say that. Just don't do it. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get on probation. I'm going to drive by you while you're picking up litter and I'm going to laugh and you're going to cry and it's going to be bad things. So just don't trespass.
It's not going to be a good time. So the Wilson family did not happen. The triple homicide probably did not happen. And the disappearing college student, we are pretty sure did not happen. If it did happen and you're floating around in the netherworld, I'm so sorry.
Right. What is his name? George? If you can hear us, we're sorry.
Who knows? Nobody knows. So I think where all of your woo-woo came from was like way back in the day. So Savannah, like we talked about, has this awesome habit of building stuff on top of cemeteries. And granted, a lot of people have died in Savannah. They had 3 different outbreaks of yellow fever, which if you're not familiar, it's transmitted by mosquitoes. If you have not listened to This Podcast Will Kill You, go hop over and listen to their episode on yellow fever.
It's great.
Also go listen to their episode on the Spanish flu because Savannah also had multiple pandemics of the Spanish flu, or the epidemics, I guess, of the Spanish flu. They had many fires, which took out good parts of the town. They are not shy on disasters or death. And so they had a lot of bodies to bury, and they would bury them. And then they would also expand, and they wouldn't necessarily do the correct thing and move the bodies. So they just build on top of them. So I think that's what happened with this. The first source that hinted at this said that you can see the old slave cemetery in this picture.
Oh, okay.
Which is from 1734.
Jeez.
Spoiler alert, there is no cemetery in this picture. If you look at the legend down here, the most interesting thing on here is Oglethorpe's tent. Like there's nothing as far as cemetery goes, but this ends up being River Street down here.
Oh, okay. So this is like all Savannah?
This is all Savannah.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
So then I just kind of went down this rabbit hole and I ended up on the Georgia Archives, which is a very interesting place. So I found this map that is from the early 1820s. And obviously Savannah is a little bit more developed than the one from the 1700s. You see the Savannah River right here, and then you'd have River Street right there. So I'm just going to zoom in. So you see Bull Street right here.
Right.
And then you have Oglethorpe Square right here.
Right.
And then this is the cemetery that I cannot remember the name of. It's the one that you and I walk through. They have the headstones on the walls of the cemetery because Sherman like destroyed the cemetery. But this is the original cemetery to Savannah. Like this was the city cemetery. It was in use for a long time. In the map between the 1700s and this one, this cemetery was always there.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you have Abercorn right here. 432, what would be right around here?
Okay.
What does this say, Kristen?
It says New Cemetery.
Bum, bum, bum.
And you said like none of the streets have changed their names at all.
Correct. Where it says New Cemetery is where Calhoun Square should be, thereabouts.
Okay.
So I'm not seeing anything that specifically says that it's for like slaves. I think that just fits a narrative. Honestly, it could be because that cemetery had been in use so long that they needed a new one.
Yeah.
And
I mean, or I mean, it could have slaves. I mean, we just don't know.
The other half of this is over here, down here. Here's a poorhouse and hospital.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay. So cheerful. Poorhouse and hospital. Good.
And then the cemetery.
Yay.
And their house would be around like here.
I gotcha.
This is the only thing that I actually found absolution from of, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally get a haunting being that close to some dead bodies and building things on it. It is interesting to me too, because like you said, like this poorhouse and hospital are like right here. And so maybe that's where the legends are coming, kind of getting that like orphanage, poorhouse, school kind of thing. And you can also say like the hospital was probably dumping bodies into that cemetery. So, I mean, that was pretty much the only like rumor legend that I kind of fully was agreeing to, Savannah has tons of bodies. Of course, it's probably built on tons of bodies, so.
Look at this map though. Like this map was just so incredible. We should definitely go to the archives and check this out.
But then I would want to touch it. And I don't think
you can touch it.
You can?
Yeah, they'll pull it out for you.
Oh my gosh.
You just can't take it home with you.
Well, I don't want to take it home. I would lose it immediately. That is awesome. You guys, we don't go to our city archives enough. I feel like that's where people should take elementary school kids on field trips.
But I don't want to go down to Atlanta right now and check out the archive building.
Right now, not at 10 o'clock at night.
Not right now at 10 o'clock at night. Not right now in 2021.
Oh, okay. Well, I would go. I lived there, so not in the archives, but I lived close enough. So it was fine with me.
I lived in the engineering section of the archive building.
I lived
Built a
in the
lot of
arts.
memories.
I took my siestas at the Art and Leisure Center. I don't
No,
even know.
that was it.
Well, awesome. So what do we think? Haunted or hoax? Do you think there's actual hauntings there?
I think that there are potential for like mild hauntings. I don't think that you see a little girl looking out the window. From what I saw, the bedrooms are upstairs as far as like the tax assessor information goes.
Mm,
But we all know that a little girl didn't die in that building anyway. So
not
you're
like not one girl, not four girls, not three girls, not in a triangle, and not in a chair. No girls died there. I'm Dr. Seuss.
I was
Thank you
waiting
for
for you to start
coming.
rhyming.
Thank you for coming to our podcast.
Well, now start with
Uh,
green eggs and ham.
I kind of think that this is the hoax. I think that this is like I understand that Savannah is such a haunted city that there could be just be like poltergeist kind of activity for sure. But seeing the blog from the current owner and you just kind of like negating all these stories, I just kind of feel like this became such a rumor house
It is
and
a
it
rumor
built
mill.
right. It built up probably because a ghost tour needed an extra stop,
Mm-hmm.
is my theory. So I'm gonna say I'm leaning more on the side of hoax for this one. Not to say that like definitely there's something going on, but I just when I go on a ghost tour, I'm kind of probably gonna look at my phone during this kind of story, unless I want to take pictures of this really pretty house that I wish I lived
Or
in.
judge the tour guide heavily for actually stopping at this house when I was able to do this research in like a week and figure out that none of it was true.
Right, judge him heavily and karate chop him in the hand if he goes towards any leaves on the ground.
Yes, yes. I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, oh no, no, you can be violent about that. Never mind.
Right. Silly, acceptable way to be violent.
Fully fine. So at the end of our podcast, we always want to do like a Kristen likes to call it a sage moment to kind of cleanse the spooky. This wasn't very spooky because it was lies and deception.
Which is spooky sometimes.
Sometimes it's spooky. Do you have a sage moment today?
I do. It's not really like an article or anything as far as like sometimes I like to find happy articles. Sometimes I like to find little funny stories that are amusing on Twitter. But I am a huge fan of Kristen Chenoweth. If you don't know who Kristen Chenoweth is, you are living under a rock, but she played Glinda in the original Wicked Broadway musical. She's been in a whole bunch of other things. She's an amazing talent. And she just got engaged like yesterday in New York. And her pictures are just adorable. I am very excited for her and her fiance, Josh, wishing them so many years of happiness. And I love it when I just see anybody I know, taking positive steps in life. But Kristen Chenoweth is such a pure soul. I feel
She
like she's
is.
one of those celebrities that just brings a smile to my face. So,
Well, congratulations to her.
and she has the best name ever. We know.
Kristen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have one?
I do. So this is actually a pretty funny thing. We went to the aquarium, on Monday,
Mhm.
and they have they have this shark exhibit that you can go see.
Right.
It's like a new shark experience, but you can actually dive with the sharks, and they'll give you like a full scuba suit to put on,
Right.
and get
It's
like
good
under.
soup.
It's good soup. It's actually it's the brand of the scuba suit. Good soup. So I learned
Hmm.
that SCUBA is an acronym. It stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Did you know
Okay.
that?
I did not know that.
I had no idea. But then I learned. Did you also know that TUBA is an acronym?
No.
Do you know what it stands for?
No. What does it stand for?
Terrible underwater breathing apparatus.
No, it doesn't. You made that up.
Oh, I got her. She's crying.
Between the soup and the tuba. With
It's a scuba tuba soup.
oh man, this has been a good end to the podcast and a very long week.
So, you know what we're doing next week?
I
You're still crying.
know I'm still like my eyes are like watering. You tell them what we're doing next week while I compose myself. Oh, no.
Let me just pull out my notebook.
I think we're doing Amityville next week, aren't we?
Prepared for this meeting.
I think that we're doing Amityville. And I am almost certain that we might need to do Amityville in 2 parts, but I don't know. We'll see.
I think you are correct that we are doing Amityville.
Okay.
Notebook. And based on the Lizzie Borden dress rehearsal we did, we will absolutely need to do 2 parts.
Yes. So we'll do Amityville. I'm excited. It has a lot of juicy stuff. Tell us how you like this format. Tell us what you think of our podcast. Be brutally honest, unless it's mean, and then don't be honest at all. No, I'm just kidding. But tell us also through Twitter or social media what you would like us to cover. We're always looking for new haunted places. So that would be great if we got some community input. And follow any of our social medias, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast.
Absolutely. Any little bit will help. And we will see you next week.
We will see you next week with our scuba suits on.
But no tubas.
No tubas.
Bye.
All right. Bye.